All right, I think we're going. All right, welcome everyone. If you haven't yet introduced yourself in the chat, please do so now. I'll introduce myself. I'm Darren Knapp. I'm the one sending you all the emails this week about our Teacher Pathways Fair, our annual Teacher Pathways Fair. This is the fourth year we've done it. The third year I've helped organize and run it. So thank you for putting up with all the communications and messages and things like that. We're super excited to have you here. Just a reminder, if you would like closed captioning, you're going to need to turn that on using the toolbar below. We are recording this event, so if you need to hop in or out at any point, we will put I'd say the main portion of the event. We're not going to put the breakout rooms recordings up, but the 4 to 5:30 will be recorded and it'll be posted on our website afterwards. I will also share the slides with you, so don't worry about furiously taking notes. And if any of you would like to meet with me one-on-one, I know I put that out there to many of you before the fair, but one of my roles here at PSESD is Pathways Navigator, and most people have a unique set of circumstances that are leading them into teaching and leading them from teaching. And so navigating that system can often be tricky and overwhelming. So I'm happy to meet with folks if you want to meet and chat and talk through your particular scenario. We really want to just be here to support you on a pathway to teacher certification, whatever way that looks for you. So thanks so much for being here. And feel free to use the chat if you have questions or things come up. I want to make this as useful and helpful for you. So if you have questions, Kaylee's going to be here. She can help monitor the chat for me. And we'll have lots of times when we are in breakout rooms and then the main room, so you can ask the questions that you need. So let's go ahead and get started. Again, if you're just joining us, please introduce yourself in the chat. Tell us where you're coming from. Kaylee, you want to start us off why we're here?
Yeah, to start us off on grounding us into why this work is so important as representation matters in our school district, our school system. I'm just really here to just ground us into thinking of we are not only doing this work just for our students of color, but we're doing this work to build our school community and be together and be in space with each other. Our educators, our students, everybody, as I feel like in the community of Washington, it has been a lot, like this whole year, these past few years, but continuing, it's so important to commit to doing this work and continuing to grow and continuing to educate ourselves as we work through the system and try to be able to be here for our students of color.
Awesome. Thanks. And Kaylee, do you want to introduce yourself and say how you're connected to
Yeah,
PSESD?
my name is Kaylee. I go by she, her pronouns. I'm an intern at the Puget Sound Educational Services District, with Darren and so many other people, awesome people on our equity and education team. I'm a current junior at the UW School of Social Work and also in the Ethnic Studies program. And I'm just so happy to be here and so happy to see so many different educators and paraeducators and everybody here.
Um, thanks, Kaylee. You want to go into the next one? Land, water, and labor acknowledgement.
Yeah, so I'm going to be reading the People, Land, and Water Acknowledgement from the Puget Sound Educational Services District. Recognizes the way to true reconciliation starts with facing and accepting our past, which is rooted in colonization, imperialism, and white supremacy, and authentically moving towards honoring Indigenous people and land we occupy. PSESD acknowledges the region we support and occupy are the ancestral territories of the Coast Salish people. As the original stewards of the land, the Coast Salish people are comprised of tribes that spanned across the Pacific Northwest coast of Turtle Island. PSESD recognized that there are 29 federally recognized tribes in the state of Washington and 5 of the tribes in the state that are not recognized by the U.S. federal government, but are recognized by the state. Our region of service includes the tribes of Duwamish, Muckleshoot, Nisqually, Puyallup, Skokomish, Snoqualmie, Stillaguamish, Steilacoom, and Suquamish. PSESD physical spaces reside on the traditional lands of Duwamish tribe, Muckleshoot Indian tribe, and Puyallup tribe, who historically lived through the Black Cedar, Green, Puyallup, and White River watersheds. The PSESD rented office sits on the ancestral Duwamish village named Sko Al Ko, which means confluence. And then also, Darren, I think this, I don't know if this is for everybody else, but the screen isn't showing, like for me, it's not
Oh,
showing the slideshow.
that is not good. Let me reshare. Thank you.
Yeah, and other people in the chat said it's the same.
How about now?
Yes.
Okay. So sorry. I could see it. It would be helpful if everyone else could see it though. Um, awesome. Thank you so much. And then this is just a short blurb about our Puget Sound ESD has an end to support all students of color, all educators of color, and our equity and ed department in particular is focusing on recruitment and retention efforts for our educators of color. This fair is open to all folks. So if you are not an educator of color, you are welcome to be here. I got a couple messages from folks saying, I don't identify as an educator of color. Can I still come to the fair? Yes, absolutely. You can be part of the fair. We are also acknowledging that our goal as an equity department is to help diversify the educator workforce and increase our educators of color and our multilingual educators to better represent our youth in our schools. So that is the focus for us. And you'll see we give a lot of specifics in the fair tonight around how to specifically support our educators of color. So again, everyone is welcome to be here, and the information tonight is specifically targeted for educators of color, but there's a lot of good information around pathways, financial supports, and things like that. Here is our packed agenda. So we have the wonderful Derek Pete as our guest speaker. And then we have Virginia Morales from OSPI. She's going to talk a little bit about the need for bilingual educators in our state and some of the opportunities there. WSAC, the Washington State Achievement Council, couldn't make it tonight, so I'll be sharing their financial aid workshop and some other resources that I've collected over the past few years that will support. The number one question I usually get is, how am I going to pay for college? How am I going to pay for a teacher prep program? So I'll share some of the resources there. And then after that, from 5:30 to 6, we'll have breakout rooms with representatives from the districts listed here. So you can choose which breakout room you'd like to attend and go and talk with the different districts. Every district is different in terms of what grow your own type of supports that they have for educators and paraeducators. So it's helpful to go and just talk with your district representatives. And then from 6 to 7, it'll also be breakout rooms with the teacher prep programs and colleges in our area. They're mostly, I would say most of the programs are regionally located in the South Puget Sound, but there are a couple that are also available online. So that'll be a little bit of a longer session because you might want to pop around and talk to multiple folks. And again, all the information that's shared tonight will be posted on our PSESD website. So you'll be able to see the recording. If there are other presentations that you weren't able to get to, I try and collect those and post those on our website as well. And again, if you have questions, you can always reach out to me or our team, and we can set up a meeting to talk more. All right. So yes, we already talked a little bit about why we're here. Representation matters. Our educators of color matter to not just our students of color, but all students. So we have somebody here today who's going to talk a little bit about the work that he's done. Okay, sorry. I'm going to bop ahead a little bit. We have Derek Pete here from North Thurston School District. He's going to talk a little bit about his work as a paraeducator, an educator. I think you taught 5th grade, if I'm remembering correctly, Derek. and then moved into HR and was a principal, and then moved into HR and has done a lot of work in his career to support educators of color. And so he's here to share with us and inspire, um, just to share his story and the path that he's taken. So do you want to just do a quick intro, Derek?
Yeah, so my name is Derek P., currently Executive Director of Human Resources, and I'll cover through my path some of the different kind of places where I landed. I do like to just start with just my inspirations. My motivations are my family. So I have two kids, a 12-year-old Grayson and a 6-year-old Bella, as well as my wife, who's also an educator. She's primary teacher, 10 years. She's done transitional kindergarten, first grade, started as a social worker. So we're deeply committed to being representing educators of color wherever we can, wherever we're welcome. So I attended UW Seattle for my undergrad. I ended up finally graduating with an American and Ethnic Studies degree, and then I went to UW Tacoma to earn my master's in teaching, and I started my teaching career in Tacoma as well. And then I went to Wazoo, Puyallup for my principal cert. It was like a principal school taught by Puyallup district directors. And then currently, I'm actually in the PhD program finishing up my PhD in educational education at Northwest Nazarene University. So a little bit busy, but clearly I love school. So I think I'm in the right room for that. So some of my motivations, again, for wanting to become a teacher really started in college when I was at UW. I was in it's probably the fifth, maybe sixth time I changed my major in my freshman year. So it was really quick. But I was really struggling with finding a path that inspired me. I really thought once I got to UW, I would go pre-med, I'd become a doctor because that would just be a good career. But I really did struggle finding my place there. And at UW at the time, you had to take so many like general education classes that I just kind of stumbled upon an African American studies class. And it was taught by a Black man, and it was the very first time I had ever had an educator of color, ever, which I was just shocked and confronted with that reality that I had matriculated through all those levels of school, and I've never ever once had an educator of color or any educator who looked like me at all. And I like kind of started looking back into like my educational history, and all of my memories and thinking about some of the interactions were like actually very negative exchanges or microaggressions with either staffs or students. I was like, I really did not feel like a strong sense of belonging um, through school, even though I love school. I just never had a real connection. And it really started making me think, like, why don't more students of color aspire to become educators? And it's really like our educational experiences, starting as young as kindergarten, first grade, we kind of start to, as we matriculate through school, if we don't have someone who we connect with and instill that passion in us, then sometimes we just kind of we go through school and we end up not even having such a positive experience that we don't want to continue and work in school for the next decade or two. So I began really reflecting on that, and I wanted to make an impact, and I really wanted to be um, like represent educators of color and have the greatest impact that I could possibly have on marginalized students. So I was like, I'm gonna graduate with an American Ethnic Studies degree and become a paraeducator, which I didn't even know what a paraeducator was. But my parents, my dad was a fifth grade teacher in Tacoma, and my mom at that time was a counselor at Lincoln High School, and they encouraged me to just give it a try. So my first job in education was actually as a one-on-one at Baker Middle School in Tacoma School District, and I worked in an adjustment classroom, which was at that time we weren't really fully into an inclusion model. So these were students without a one-on-one would not have access to general ed peers. So I worked with a student. He was an eighth grader with yes, my dad was George Ryan. Sorry, that Someone put that in the chat. Yes. So eighth grade student with a chromosomal disorder that impacted him. He had a significant speech delay. Also, he spoke with a assisted tech device. That was my first real interaction with like just students who would be marginalized without like a resource to be able to kind of engage and interact with their same level peers. It was the first time that I'd really experienced what that would be like. So I followed him to Foss High School. So 3 more years as a one-on-one para. And again, just like learning more about how marginalized students just get so separated and divided as they matriculate through that. They quickly form a very low sense of belonging and connection to schools. So I said, I'm going to go back to school and I'm going to become a teacher, again, to expand my impact and influence beyond just serving as a one-on-one, but like I want my own classroom and I want to work in a diverse school with lots of challenges because I want to make a difference. So I worked in my first job was in Franklin Pierce School District at Christensen Elementary School. So I taught fifth grade, fourth grade, and lap there for about 5 years. And again, I learned a lot. And just looking back on the classroom, the composition of that classroom, where I kind of grew up in elementary schools, always predominantly white. I was typically the only student of color in any of my classes, and to be kind of a to be a teacher in a school that was as diverse as this was, and I just said, you know what, I think I can do more than this. So I said, I'm going to go back to school and become a principal, and I want to be in charge with being a light for all students, not just my classroom. So I went to principal school, and it was Wazoo, but like I said, it was in Puyallup. Went to principal school, got my first assistant principal job in Puyallup at Fir Grove Elementary School. Um, and like the matriculating through and educating, moving through the system, I didn't do that by myself. Like looking back and just, I constantly think about the support systems and the key contributors along the way for me. First of all, my family. Really, education was a foundational core family value. We had no choice but to commit to school and do very well in school, go to college. All of those were no choices. And then in college, Dr. Pena, I remember he was the professor who urged me to formally change my major to American Ethnic Studies. And I said, well, what kind of job can you get with that? My parents sent me to school so I could get a really good job. He's the one who first started instilling that sense of really identity and voice. When you're a person of color and you're one of very few, it's really hard to form that identity because you were always trying to just fit in as best as possible. So I had done that so long that I'd forgotten really what my true purpose should be. And along the way, when I got into my professional career, an assistant principal, or my principal, the first principal that I worked for at Fir Grove Elementary, Richard Lasso, was really a person who took me under his wing and really encouraged me to think bigger than even assistant principal. He's like, do not ever put limits on yourself. You just keep growing. You keep growing your network and your people that you that care about you and that have the same beliefs and values as you. Surround yourself by those people, and you just keep on expanding your reach. And that's really has driven me since I started. And again, some of the challenges, right? Any person of color in a predominantly white spaces, or even in like diverse areas, you're going to face some challenges. And some of the obstacles that I recall that I still experience is just there's still a limited representation of Black male teachers and administrators, which it makes it harder, like to find a role model and mentorship opportunities. The microaggressions and discrimination, you're always going to be questioned about your qualifications, the concerns around tokenism, right? So just knowing that those are some obstacles you'll face, but to overcome these challenges, having a network of people like this group right here, mentorship opportunities, resilience. Just know that your personal experiences and the positive impact on students who see themselves reflected in leadership. Like, just know that your impact is so significant. Even earlier today, I got a text message from one of my a student teacher that I had in my class, and he told me in my first cohort as a fifth grade teacher that she had come back to school and she was substitute teaching. So I'm thinking, like, that was only 12 years ago, but she was substitute teaching, and she took a selfie with him and just said, like, Mr. Pete, thank you so much for believing in me. And that literally is like the highlight of the last 10 years. I just can't believe it. I told her I'm proud of her and I'm not surprised at all, but don't ever be surprised at the impact that you really do have on the lives of students and people, everyone in your sphere of influence. Okay, so if I was going to leave some advice, this is my advice, what I live by. Maybe you can kind of walk away with some of this, but for me, find a mentor who inspires you, then become a mentor who inspires others. That's how I kind of live when I make connections or meet people. I really do expect them to be deep and long lasting and authentic. And that's what I live by. Believe in your value, right? Your lived experiences and culture insights are powerful assets to education. Seek out support, ask for help, build that network, and take advantage of your opportunities. Opportunities just like this to network and to learn the system and find a pathway that works for you, and stay persistent because there will be challenges, but don't let them discourage you from pursuing this impactful career. You will make a difference in the lives of students. Okay, so switching gears a little bit, just about some of the opportunities that have presented themselves to me. Again, looking back, I've been an educator. This is my 17th year in education. So I was a para, right? A teacher, assistant principal, director of HR, and now executive director of HR. And it's not lost on me the amount of kind of the power or perceived power that you get as you go along the way, and not to lose sight of my mission here is really like, how do I, now that I'm a member of cabinet, the core team of 6 people who make lots of decisions in the strategic direction of the entire school district, how can I use my influence to impact change to support my mission, which is to diversify the teacher workforce? And that's why I work in human resources and looking at the equitable hiring practices and why is the percentage of of leaders in assistant principal roles or principal roles, why is it drastically reduced for educators of color? Like, why is that happening? Why are we not tapping the potential of our paras, moving it, like helping them get into teaching roles? How are we not tapping our teachers of color and encouraging them to pursue leadership roles? So that's again one of my kind of big missions and my next steps in my journey. I'm going to finish my dissertation. That's key. Hopefully graduation is scheduled for May if I stay on track. And again, my research is all about like looking at the efficacy of grow your own programs on diversifying the teacher workforce. That's my research. And I want to influence district and state level policies. If anyone in here is inspired by anything that I've said, if you're a paraeducator and you would like to tell your story, as part of my research, I am hosting a focus groups. It would be in a focus group setting with other paraeducators who identify as BIPOC. If you would like to participate, Darren has my contact information. I would love to hear from you. I'm interviewing Darren next week, and I interviewed Eileen today, actually, and she was fantastic, set the bar really, really high for anyone that comes behind her. And the last, I'll leave with just some of the things we're doing in North Thurston that I'm proud about. Again, like creating pathways for your own alternative routes is is a key goal for us because when you look at the data from the HR lens, the most untapped potential as far as BIPOC educators is growing our paraeducator goal. So we have started new partnerships with Evergreen State College. We signed an MOU with the summer 2025, St. Martin's University for parents who might want to be special ed teachers. That launches in summer 2025. And then we're in the process of bringing on WEA as the teacher apprenticeships in the ESD 113, and North Thurston will likely have two to four kind of people taking that on. And then also ESD 113, I'm part of the leader team, and we receive some mini grants to provide some financial resources to BIPOC paraeducators to offset the expense for having to take a leave of absence to do student teaching. So we got blocks of money to support that efforts because that was one of the major financial barriers that in our focus group that was shared is how do we continue to pay our bills when we have to take a leave of absence just to student teach. So those are some of the things I'm most proud of. And again, I hope I hope took away a little tidbit from my story.
Yay. You're so awesome. I think Chloe put this in the chat, but oh my gosh, what an inspiration. And you have like a legacy of like touching multiple districts, and it sounds like your family, you're like contributing and continuing the paying it forward from multiple generations. And we're so lucky to hear your story and to be inspired by you. I'm like, all right, I'm ready. I'm ready for my next step. So
And
thank you, Derek. I really appreciate it. And I will share your information. I'll put it in the follow-up email to all participants if they want to reach out to you and be part of the focus group.
I would love to. Mentoring is that's my passion. I'd love to be your mentor if you would like to reach out. I'm
I
never
love
too.
it. All
Thank you.
right. Thank you so much for being here. I know for all of you being here after what I'm guessing is a long school day. It's great to have your participation. So thanks, Derek.
Thank you.
I'm looking in our participant list to see if Dr. Morales is here.
Yes.
Hello, there you
Hello.
are.
Yes.
Great.
And no doctor,
No doctor.
unfortunately.
Okay.
But it's all good. No problem.
Good to see you. We're gonna
Yes, good to see.
transition to your presentation, and you should have sharing privileges. So whenever
Yes.
you're ready.
All right. Give me just 1 minute to I literally like just got home, sat down, but
No,
I'm
you're
ready to
good.
go. Just give
You're
me a
good.
moment to, it's always the dance of am I sharing the right screen?
Oh,
So
I talked for like 5 minutes earlier and I completely didn't have the right screen shared. So
Okay, so just 1 moment and I'll be ready to go. Okay, from beginning. And then let me just get the right screen going here. Just 1 moment. Move all my things. And okay, I think you
yeah,
should be
I can see your future
excellent.
jobs outlook
Excellent.
screen.
Very good. Well, hello, everyone. And thank you so much, Darren, for the invitation to join you this evening. Like Darren was saying, I appreciate everyone who's here today, both presenters and attendees, because, it's the afternoon. We've all worked today. And so myself included, so I really recognize the time that you've taken to join us today. All right, well, I'll go ahead and get started so that I don't take up more of your time. And my name is Virginia Morales, and I'm the Assistant Director of Multilingual Education at OSPI. And so I'm here to talk about, as the title of the presentation says, the future jobs outlook in multilingual education. So let's get started. And first and foremost, we always like to make time and space to acknowledge the Indigenous people who have stewarded this land since time immemorial and who still inhabit these areas today. Today, I am presenting from the ancestral lands of the Puyallup tribe and honor with gratitude the land itself and this tribe. And we always like to just point out OSPI's vision, mission, and values. All of our work in multilingual education connects back to the agency's vision of all students prepared for post-secondary pathways, careers, and civic engagement. And we achieve this by developing equity-based policies and supports that empower the students, families, and communities that we work with. And one of the values that we really focus on is the value of ensuring equity, especially for our students and their families. And so we do that through providing both multilingual education and bilingual education. All right, so our topics for today. I'm going to speak a little bit about dual language in Washington State, where we are and where we're going, what you can do as an educator to prepare yourself if that is a field that interests you, and also just clearly lay out the need for bilingual educators, both here, in Washington State and across the nation, and then share some resources and time for questions. All right. So first, I want to define what a multilingual learner is. And so formally, the term English language learner was used, and that's still used federally. And these are for students who who speak another language as their first language, or they're what we call simultaneous bilinguals, are learning English and another language at the same time, which was the case, which was my case. I learned Spanish and English simultaneously. And so we use the more asset-based term of multilingual learners. So in Washington State, we have over 150,000 multilingual learners in Washington. And to put that into context, that's one of the top 10 as far as population size in the United States. So behind California, Texas, New York, Florida, some of those larger states, Washington is in the top 10. And that equals about 13% of all of our students. And it represents about 235 languages, which is quite a lot. Here's our top 10 languages, and you can see that Spanish is the predominant language and followed closely behind by Russian and Ukraine, and then Vietnamese. So you can see also that we have Dari and Arabic and Somali, Marshallese. And so these are really the languages that we see most in our schools. And then you'll see just small pockets of other languages that range greatly from just being some of the indigenous languages in Mexico, Central and South America, to just some of the Asian languages as well. So lots of different, Washington is incredibly diverse. So, in response to this great diversity that we have in Washington State, here at the agency, we developed a multilingual learner statewide strategic plan. And I will share a PDF of these slides so that you can download the plan. There's also a QR code, and you can find it quite easily on our website as well. And what we did within this plan is we really wanted to outline what we as a state agency could do to support the success of all multilingual learners in Washington State, but also outline what, what our work at OSPI is, what the work at the district is, and then how it trickles down to both the classroom and the individual teacher. So lots of work that is, as a guide for districts and schools to use. And our plan contains four core principles. The first being to promote asset-based mindset and to really celebrate multilingualism and recognize that our students bring cultural and linguistic assets that we should value and promote within our school settings. The second core principle is strengthen instructional practices. And what instructional practices are we identifying that best reach and serve our multilingual learners? We also focus on providing support for educators so that educators have the tools and resources needed in order to address the linguistic needs of multilingual learners and how to engage students and families. So now that was just like kind of, the context to think about, well, what does dual language look like in Washington State? And we connect that directly back to our strategic plan and that vision of promoting asset-based mindset, of celebrating multilingualism and valuing being able to speak more than one language. And so our third goal within that promote asset-based mindset is to expand dual heritage and tribal language programs. And I do want to spend a moment talking about tribal language. That is something that the Office of Native Ed works on. And again, there's a movement for native revitalization of native languages before they reach the point of extinction, which many of the languages are in danger of as elders pass on and the language isn't passed down to future generations. And here we have a vision for dual language in Washington State. And in this video, um, educators and Superintendent Rakedahl really focus on that vision of how students having the option to be educated and to become proficient in two or more languages by 2040. So that was Superintendent Rakedahl's vision, and that's what we're working towards, is increasing the number of dual language programs within Washington State so that students have opportunities, if they choose to do so, to become proficient in more than one language. And so that video clip is there. And again, I'll be sharing those slides so that you can have access to that. All right, so before a school can have a program, they have to know how to develop one. And a large part of our work is in supporting school districts in developing their own dual language program because some schools are starting from scratch. This isn't a program that is currently within their settings. And so we have a dual language program guide that really is a step-by-step process of getting a dual language program off the ground. And that you see here that we have these three pillars of dual language. And then it also outlines the different types of programs. So the first program is a two-way dual language program. And this program serves both multilingual learners and English proficient students. So you have a mixture of students. And so the language is traveling both two ways, right? You have multilingual learners being modeled for their English proficient peers, and then the English proficient peers being models for multilingual learners. Then you have one-way dual language programs. And these programs consist mostly or entirely of multilingual learners from one language group. And this is usually in smaller programs where they just don't have the numbers to have a two-way dual language program. And then you have a world language immersion. And what the distinction between a world language immersion and a dual language program is that world language immersion programs serve mostly English speakers with less than 30% of multilingual students. So it's this English speakers who benefit most from a world language immersion program, as they are the ones who are developing mostly that second language. All right, well, those are our program types. And so you might be thinking about, well, what does this look like instructionally? Oh, forgive me, I didn't realize that my camera had stopped working. Sorry about that.
No
I've been
problem. I didn't
having
know if you did that on purpose.
no, unfortunately, I was in Olympia today, and my computer doesn't like it when I go back and forth from the office. So my apologies, and
You're
I'll.
good.
There we
Oh,
go.
there you
Got it
are.
worked.
Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
I don't understand why it does that. So my
No worries.
apologies.
No worries.
So you may be thinking, what does it look like instructionally as far as how much of each language is used throughout a dual language program and throughout the day? So the majority of our programs, since you saw that Spanish is the dominant second language here in Washington State, the majority of our programs are Spanish dual language programs. They're certainly not the only ones, but those are the ones that we have most of. And so in a 90-10 model, you'll see here starting in kindergarten, 90% of the student's day is spent in Spanish, the target language, with English being 10%. And that English usually becomes like specialist time or something that's outside of the content learning. Um, and over throughout the child's academic career, you can see that it then in first grade becomes an 80-20 split. And so the percentages start shifting all the way to fourth grade, where it becomes 50% for each of the languages. And that continues all the way until graduation, because by that time, there's language proficiency in both languages so that students can do content area work in either language. So that is the 90-10 model. The 50-50 model is exactly as it looks. It's just split 50% of the school day between Spanish and English from the beginning. And so all of this just really depends on capacity and the availability of educators who are bilingual in the target language, this case being Spanish, also with the number of students that you have in your program, and whether your program is a one-way or a two-way or a world language immersion. So there, that begins to give you an idea of what the split looks like as far as the instructional day. And here you can see the growth that we've experienced over the years, starting in 2015. And then these are the number of dual language students that continue to rise every year. And so we offer dual language programs in Spanish, Mandarin, Vietnamese, Japanese, and Russian in over 44 school districts and in 141 schools. And tribal languages are also growing as well, with 17 tribal languages represented in our programs, spread out over 36 schools. Heritage language programs, which we haven't spoken about, is a fantastic way to start building capacity towards a dual language program. And when districts have a heritage language program, it's not an entire school day that is devoted to the target language, but perhaps it's an after school program, or it's one subject area that is taught in this in the target language. So the demand is much less, and it's really seen as a way of supporting multilingual learners in maintaining their heritage language program, their heritage language. And what usually happens is schools and school districts start out with a heritage language program. I think a perfect example of that is in the Spokane area with the Marshallese program, and that it was really out of a desire by the community to have a heritage language program for the Marshallese language. And so the community is really supporting this program, and it's where the instructors are coming from, and they're able to support this within the schools. So keep in mind that that's always a possibility if a full dual language program is not available right away within your school district. All right. So you may be thinking, well, how do I know where these programs are? Are they near me? Is this a possibility for myself? And so this gives you instructions on how to find where these programs are. And if you're not familiar, the report card, um, the Washington School Report Card is found on our website, and that's a great resource in general just when thinking about your own school district or a school district that you would like just to know more of that district's data. So here it gives you instructions on how you can look within a school district and find those dual language programs. And so you would go to the report card state total right here where it says state total. And then on the left-hand side, there's several options, and dual language programs is one of those options. And you can see what the current dual language programs are being offered here in Washington State. And that would list the different schools that they're available at. And it's truly across the entire state, not just, the west side or the east side, but all over. So now we get to how does this impact you? And you already saw how there's an increase in programs. I was presenting at a different presentation and just looking at the growth of multilingual learners that we've had over the past 10 years, I think has increased by 20,000 students, which is significant. So we definitely have the students, right? It's more so finding the educators who have the language skills that we need that are, that are proficient in a native language where they would be able to teach content area instruction in that target language. So this is where this falls under how we provide support for educators and really thinking about that goal 7 of providing professional learning on strategies to support multilingual learners. And that also connects to the dual language programs. So how do we develop dual language educators? And as you may be learning about, there is the ELL or bilingual endorsement. Currently, I think to be a dual language teacher, this it doesn't necessarily, oh, I better not misspeak. I was going to say, I don't think the endorsement is required, but you do need to show your language proficiency, right? You do need to show that you have proficiency in the language that you will be teaching in. So one of the things that we're working towards is reducing testing barriers for bilingual candidates. And what that means is there are language proficiency exams that you need to take in order to demonstrate language proficiency, and thinking about how educators are prepared for those exams, and also what level of proficiency you need to score within on those exams. Title II grants. These are funds that school districts receive for professional learning, and they can use those grants to assist educators in obtaining their ELL and bilingual endorsements. And also for paraeducators, which is a fantastic way to really get exposure to professional learning and working with students, there is an ELL subject matter certificate course, which is really well designed, and I highly recommend if this is an area, whether it be working with multilingual learners or serving in a dual language program. And so you may be thinking about, so what are some of those pathways that you can pursue if this is something that you would want to achieve? Or also, this is what we as an agency are working to promote to build that pathway for dual language teachers. And one of those pathways are high school teacher academies. thinking about our current students in dual language programs, if they are developing their linguistic repertoires in two languages, these are prime candidates to later become teachers themselves. And thinking about grow your own models within districts. How are school districts promoting the teaching profession within their district with their students and with paraeducators as well? Some of the best paraeducators also make excellent teachers. And so we want to make sure we are supporting the educators, our current educators, in becoming endorsed if that is something that they desire. And thinking about teacher residencies. Um, Being able to work on your certification and be paid while that is while you're going to school and earning your initial certification and endorsement. And we are really looking in ways in which we can support these teacher residency programs, recognizing that it's asking a lot of a professional to student teach and go to school and not be paid for that. So we're working on that. There's some professional learning that is available to Washington educators. So if you're a paraprofessional or working in some other capacity in a school district, you have access to WIDA self-paced workshops as well as WIDA facilitated workshops, dual language teacher leader cohort, and the multilingual teacher network. And so these are available if you are already in working with a school district in some capacity. And that brings to mind the WIDA ELD standards framework. And this is the framework that we use to base our multilingual education and English language development services. And so it's helpful to know what the WIDA ELD standards framework is and how it's used to design classroom instruction because WIDA also has a framework in Spanish, which is called the Marco Dale, and it mirrors the English framework. So this is what we would base our language development on. Here is a list of the WIDA self-paced courses, and they do have links that will take you to PD Enroller so that you can earn clock hours, and the clock hours are free. So again, if you're thinking about how can I build my own resources and my own learning, this is an option for anyone who is working with a Washington school district. You do have to be employed by a Washington school district, not necessarily as a teacher, but in some capacity to enroll in these courses.
Can you explain what WIDA is, the
Oh, yes,
acronym?
thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you so much. We speak so much of this, and actually, WIDA doesn't stand for anything. It used to stand for WIDA is a consortium of 41 states, and what the consortium develops are the English language development standards that we use, the assessments that we use to identify students for multilingual services and for the annual assessment, and they also provide professional learning. So, now in 2024, WIDA is a consortium of 41 states. But when it first began in, oh gosh, I think it was 2002 or 2003, it was only 3 states, and it was Wisconsin, Delaware, and I think it's Arkansas, which is what the initial WIDA stood for. And now it's just too many, so they're just WIDA. Sorry about that.
Got it.
Sometimes we
Thank you.
get,
No, that's okay.
yeah, we get very caught up in our own acronyms. And so I appreciate that. Yeah, so you have the courses listed here and thinking about, well, what are we working on here at OSPI to get funding for these programs and support districts? So there is a dual language bill, and I love how our director she helped me make these slides. She's like, it's now a law. So this bill passed unanimously, and it includes requirements for districts to develop a plan to begin dual language by 2040. What's important is the districts who choose to do so. So that's our job to go approach those districts who don't have a program yet and really help them in designing one if they have the population to support it. We have grant funds to provide funds for the planning of dual language programs. And we're working towards aligning ELL and bilingual endorsement standards so that it's not extra work to obtain, or it's not extra work to obtain either one of these endorsement. So if you have the ELL endorsement, it would be easier to get the bilingual endorsement and vice versa. And then we are also supporting providing testing for the seal of biliteracy in all districts starting the next school year. If our students are putting in the work and effort to learn an additional language, we want to honor that work by being able to provide the seal of biliteracy upon graduation for our students. So this is some of the work that's happening at the state legislator level. And here you can see Superintendent Rakedahl's goal to expand dual language. So to do that, we need more bilingual educators. And as you saw, yes, Spanish may be the dominant language now, but there are heritage language programs that are providing um, uh, students the opportunity to continue with their native language that are not Spanish. So we need more bilingual educators of any language. And that also provides greater access to diverse educators. So our students are seeing educators that look like them and have the same linguistic background as them, which really, again, goes back to promoting that asset-based mindset. And it gives all students opportunity to develop their cultural and linguistic identities. And you can't do that if you don't have bilingual educators as models for our students. And so in the end, that's our goal. We need people like those of you here attending this webinar today to become teachers. So there's definitely a very positive outlook as far as jobs go. And here are just some of the districts that are implementing dual language programs or are expanding. And we have some recently launched programs as well. And those in yellow are part of the Puget Sound Educational Service District. And here is our expected growth. And they've planned this out all the way to 2029, 2030 to have 210 dual language schools and be serving around 4,200. These are the approximate number of teachers that we would need by 2029, 2030. So that is a significant number of educators that we would need in order to support the expansion of dual language programs. All right, and I know that I'm reaching my time, but I'm almost done. Here are some resources that we have links to for you to pursue on your own time. And I know that you're probably running late. I do have time for questions, but I also want to respect the time of those with us presenting as well. My email is here. You can visit our website, and I really encourage you to continue on this path because we always need fantastic educators, whether you're dual language or not. It's a possibility for you.
Thank you so much. And I did get in the chat a couple questions about if we'll share the slideshow. And yes, of course,
Yes.
we will share the slideshow, and I'll share your contact information with everyone as well.
Yes.
So many
And
good resources. I always
yeah.
learn learn from you. Thank you.
Yeah, and I will put it in the chat right now. It's behind the screen that I'm sharing on the desktop, so I'll just drag it in there, and then I'll also share it with you, Darren, as well.
Awesome.
All
Thank you so
right.
much. I really appreciate
Yes.
you coming,
Thank
being
you. No
here.
problem.
Yes. Yay.
Thank you.
All right, I'm trying to stick to our posted agenda because I know some folks are popping in and out for particular parts of the Pathways Fair. So I'm going to move us along to the financial aid section. And I'm also going to put in here I don't think I shared the presentation, the general presentation, and then I'll also share this presentation, which was given to us from Washington State Achievement Council. And again, if folks are here that I haven't yet said hello to, my name is Darren Renaud-Knapp. I'm one of the equity managers at Puget Sound ESD, and so excited that you are here to learn more about the various pathways to becoming a teacher. I'll talk a little bit more about other pathway support that I can give you. This section in particular is going to talk about financial aid and supports. So let me share my screen. This is, like I said, the WASAC. I'm speaking on behalf of WSAC. So can folks see my slideshow that says financial aid for future teachers? Let me pull up my chat. Kaylee, can you see it?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So let's get started. Washington State Student Achievement Council is one of the main organizations that supports teacher preparation pathways, and they support in various ways. So just to start off on some common definitions. So financial aid is money to help pay for college or school. There's lots of different types of financial aid. There's grants, there's loans, there's scholarships. And so we'll try and talk through the different types of aid that you might be eligible for that will help pay for various degrees or teacher certifications or endorsements. So our Washington State has a couple types of grants. A grant is gift aid that often is based on financial need and does not need to be repaid. So for example, Washington State has the Washington College Grant, and federally, students are eligible for Pell Grants. So those typically you'll fill out either a FAFSA for the federal aid or WAFSA. Well, FAFSA covers both federal aid and state aid. There is WAFSA for depending on immigration status. Some students might choose to fill out the WAFSA that is within Washington State and determines your eligibility to receive these two different types of grants. So Washington actually has pretty strong support for helping folks attain college degrees, whether it's an AA, a BA, BAS, teacher certification. There's lots of acronyms as we know in education. So the Washington State College Grant, which I used to have a different name, it recently got changed, is meant to give access to folks to be on pathways toward careers. So you might have access to Washington College Grant. Again, all of these require applying for either the FAFSA or the WAFSA to determine your eligibility. The Washington College Grant is the most, I would say, is the most thorough of the grant options. Pell Grants are also an option through the federal grant process. But for example, a student who is from a family of four making around $73,000 or less per year would be awarded a full award. So if you are applying for any of the colleges that are represented here tonight, you would get a full coverage of your need. You could also get partial grants, depending on your eligibility. So WSAC has lots of different types of grants for teacher pathways, and they break them down into these different categories. I'm going to talk through them fairly quickly because all of the information is on their website. They have particular grants for paraeducators if you want to complete your AA or AAST. They have grants if you want to add an endorsement. They have special grants if you are getting your teacher certification in a specific shortage area. They have grants for student teachers. As Virginia mentioned, a lot of folks are working paraeducators and can't take the time to not earn an income and be paying for school. And so there's aid to support that student teaching time. So this is the WSAC's website. If you go into teacher programs, you can see all the different types of grants and scholarships. Some of them are conditional scholarships, so we can talk through if folks want to meet with me. A lot of times we'll talk through which ones are conditional and require a certain commitment to teaching in your district and which ones are not. So again, the conditional scholarships on WSAC's website do require that you are going to commit to teaching in a Washington public school. You would sign a promissory note, which is just basically you saying, if I take this money, I will commit to either teaching in one of these public K-12 schools or in the shortage area. And if not, then you would pay the money back. So these are all the different types of financial conditional scholarships, grants. Again, they all have different unique pieces and parts of them. So there's the educator retooling, which means if you already have a teacher certification, but you wanted to go back to school and add a different type of an endorsement, there's a conditional scholarship for that. The pipeline for paraeducators, again, helps you complete your 2-year degree, the AADTA or the AAST. The teacher shortage scholarship, you can look, we have the link here to all the teacher shortage areas. So things like elementary ed is a teacher shortage area, special ed, middle school math and science. If you're seeking a degree and a teacher certification in a shortage area, you are eligible for up to $8,000 for 4 years of college. There's the CTE scholarship, the student teaching grant, which again, I mentioned, folks often have a hard time if their district's not able to accommodate doing your hours while you're maintaining your paid para position. Sometimes folks have to take a leave of absence, and that can really be a barrier to folks completing their teaching degree. And so that gives you a little bit of an offset. It doesn't completely replace the loss of income. And then there's some alternative route scholarships, which those ones I would encourage folks when you are meeting with your individual school districts to ask what scholarships or grants are available specifically through the district. So some of these scholarships you can apply for as an individual. There's other ones that maybe you're in, let's say, Kent School District, and they have access to, they've applied as a district to partner with City University to get one of these alternative route scholarships. So you may have access to that money because you're an employee of Kent School District and you're choosing to go to this very specific teacher prep program. Again, I would just check with your individual person in your district, and you can also ask if you're applying to a teacher prep program to say, do you have any partnerships with specific districts? I spoke to someone earlier today and she was like, I'm willing to move to a new district if it means that they're able to help me pay for my school. So she was asking for what are the lists of some of the districts that have partnerships with the universities that she was looking at to see if that would make sense for her to move and get a job in a different district. I think I spoke through these ones. The retooling certificate, the pipeline for paraeducators, again, I'll share these slides with folks so you have access to them. Kaylee, are you monitoring the chat? Since I'm talking, I'm not looking to see if there are questions coming up from folks as I'm going through these slides.
Yeah, I am. There's no questions so far, but
Okay, awesome.
if anyone puts questions, I can definitely.
Yeah, just interrupt me. Okay. Okay, I'm going to keep going. Student teaching grant. And then WSAC also provides support for applying for FAFSA, applying for WAFSA, if you want to meet with them to talk about specific educator grants and scholarships and that sort of thing. They're always amenable to supporting educators on their pathways. Again, sometimes it can be overwhelming to see all of the information and figure out which of these are right for you. I'm also happy to meet with folks if that's helpful. Haley, I see your hand.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Chloe in the chat asked if I have some credits, could I still qualify for the AA?
Yes. Yep. So we have someone on this call who I've been working with, and she's been persevering to finish up her AAST degree, and she's going to complete that at Highline College, and she had some credits that we transferred, and then she's finishing up her AAST, and she was able to apply and receive the pipeline for paraeducator grant. And I'm going to go ahead and put this in the chat.
And someone else, Veronica had asked, is what is the difference between AA and AAST? And Darren, you're muted, so I don't know if you're trying to speak right now.
Oh, yes, I'm trying to multitask, and clearly it's not working very well. Give me 1 second, and I'm going to pull up this other slideshow. If anyone wants to jump in and explain the difference between an AA and an AAST, that would be awesome while I pull up the next thing I'm trying to share. Okay. Yeah, so I can explain it. The AADTA, so there's an AA degree that's called the AADTA. It's an AA direct transfer agreement, and it qualifies as like completing your general education, like the first 2 years of a general education course that allows you to transfer to a university program. So that's called the AADTA, and it could be in a specific field, like an AADTA in elementary education. It could also be more general, like an AADTA that's like a general direct transfer agreement, the DTA. The AAST is an AA Associative Arts of Science, and that is usually more targeted for like a workforce, a particular profession. So like you might have an AAST for paraeducators, and that allows you to, like, the classes are really specifically focused around education, whereas an AADTA is going to have more general classes, like you might have an English 101 and a math prerequisite class, and a little bit more generalized.
There's a lot of questions coming in. So the first question is, does the alternative route apply to those with degrees in other fields now looking to make a change to an education/teaching career path?
Yes, and let me wrap up. I'm going to wrap up the financial section, and then I will answer that question. That's a great question.
All right, and then there's another question is, is it possible to get a teacher certification if you have a bachelor's degree in another area?
Yes, also a great question, and I'm going to save that for
Okay.
when I'm done just sharing the rest of the financial resources, but I'm happy to answer that question too.
And then the third question is a financial aid question. It says,
Okay.
I have a bachelor's in business and I am currently enrolled at WGU for MAT in SPED. Would I qualify for any financial aid?
Yes, we can talk about that after as well. That special ed is one of the teacher shortage areas, so you could qualify for some of the WSAC financial aid there. And I'm happy to chat with you and direct you to the spot to apply for that. All right, the other thing I was going to share with folks, this is on a document that I think I shared with most of you in my follow-up email. It's called the Pacific Northwest Paraeducator Pathways document, and I've just accumulated some resources in meeting with folks in the last few years and wanted to make them available. So I ended up putting together at the bottom of this document, there's funding opportunities. And it's sometimes overwhelming, like I said, to navigate and to piece together how you're going to pay for school. So at the top are all the federal opportunities. I think we already talked through applying with the FAFSA shows your eligibility for some of the federal opportunities. So Pell Grants, there's a grant called the Teach Grant, which is a conditional grant. And then there's also a teacher loan forgiveness program. So if you teach for 5 years in a low-income school or in ESD, you can qualify to get if you take out loans, you can then get your loan forgiven. Within Washington State, we already talked about the Washington College Grant. There's also a college-bound Washington scholarship. That's one that you would have had to commit in 7th or 8th grade to attending college in order to have access to that grant. But I think it's helpful to just share all the information with folks, whether it's for you or for your own kids or your own communities, to share with folks what all the aid that's available in our state are. And then we already talked through the WSAC Teacher Workforce Grant. So I highlighted on here the Pipeline for Paraeducator Grant, the Teacher Shortage, Conditional Scholarship Grant, Alt Route Grant, and then the Student Teacher Grant. And then there's a link to other grants that could be available. There's one specifically for Highline College. There's one that is specifically for Washington State. And then there's one that I just saw and was like, I'm going to share this with students. It's a Sally Mae scholarship portal. And then also, if you would like some support, sometimes it can be overwhelming to apply for FAFSA or WAFSA. And so there's a lot of different resources to connect you with. Sometimes libraries offer clinics. Like I said, WSAC will have online events that you can attend. We also have partnerships with a couple of organizations, Northwest Ed Access, and the college that you likely would like to attend, like Highline College, for example, has access to a lot of financial aid supports for students. In talking with folks, a lot of times just applying for these can be, like I said, it can be overwhelming to figure out which ones to apply for. If you're doing them correctly, maybe you get an email from FAFSA. They changed the FAFSA form recently, and so it can be kind of complicated and confusing if you don't have someone to bounce questions off of. So I'm happy to help with questions or to direct you to resources that can really support you in completing all the paperwork to see what you have eligibility for. All right. I'm going to go back to this slideshow because I think I'm going to move into just like some of those questions that were just asked. I'm going to share this. Oops, I don't want to do that. I just want to share my slideshow. So at 5:30, we have our districts coming, and I want to give folks an opportunity to think about which district they might want to talk to. And also one of the roles that I play, I mentioned this earlier, but if you joined late, I'll say it one more time. I'm happy to meet with folks individually because almost every person I've talked to about getting on a pathway to becoming a teacher has unique circumstances. Some folks have already completed some credits, but maybe they haven't completed a full AA or AAS degree. Some people already have a degree, like maybe you already have a bachelor's degree and you want to be a career change into teaching. There are programs out there for you. We just need to connect you with the right ones. When I meet with folks, oftentimes I'll ask them, what credits or degree do you already have? Do you have a specific modality that you're seeking for learning? So some people are like, I can only do online after my kids go to bed between the hours of 9 and 11 at night. And so that's really going to limit what you have availability to, which program you have availability to do. Some people say, I need to be in person. I know I'm an in-person learner. So then we can narrow down which programs are best for you. Sometimes the program, we'll look at programs based on what your hopes are. Like if you want to become a middle school or high school teacher versus elementary, or you want to add a special ed endorsement, or you have the specific content that you'd like to teach. Each of the programs are set up differently depending on kind of what your end goal endorsement or grade that you'd like to teach. And then depending on where you are, what district if you're already employed in a district, some districts, like I said, have resources to help support you in completing some of these degrees. Or you might need to apply for FAFSA or WAFSA, or look at what possibilities there are to help you pay for it. So there's lots of different variables, and I'm happy to chat with folks as we go into breakout rooms. I'll just stay in the main room, and if folks have questions. When folks were registering, one of the main questions I got from folks was, what if I have a bachelor's degree from outside of the US? And there is a process with OSPI, the governing body for teacher certification, around how you would show your transcripts from outside the US. Some teacher prep programs would then ask you to send those transcripts and get them evaluated to make sure that would essentially be accepted by the university or the college. But there are options for you. So be happy to talk with folks. Again, either individually, we can set up a time after this Pathways Fair, or during the breakout sessions, I'll be in the main room to answer some questions. Kaylee, any questions coming up before I move on?
Yes,
Okay.
there is a few. So
Okay.
after the last question that we went off on,
Yeah.
there was a question on, based on my age, 53 years old that I am, what are the possibilities to get a job in the future and a scholarship?
Yeah, I would suggest maybe we chat after the all group. We can chat individually, and I can talk with you a little bit about what. And then I would ask that question to your district representative as well.
And then another person asked, interested in a path where you already have a BA, an MBA, and got education in another country and not related to teaching, with 5+ years in the field in the USA as a para, MLL, dual language, and LAP.
Yeah. So I'll put this link to this paraeducator pathways document. I didn't show the top of the document. Again, this is just something that I've created as like my own notes, and have ended up sharing with folks as I'm chatting with them about their pathways. But if you go to the top of the document, you can start with, if you have a high school diploma, the next best the next step that you would need to take in your journey is completing like your AA, either your AA and then your BA or BAS, or completing a BA and a teacher certification. So if you're starting with the high school diploma, these are the programs in the area that can help you complete the AA DTA or the AAS. If you already have that AA DTA and you're looking for what would be next, these are the programs that have either like a dual BAS and teacher cert, or you can just get your BA and then you would enter an alternative route program. So these are the programs for if you're starting with your AAS or your AA DTA. And then here, so the person who just described their coming in with outside of the US bachelor's and maybe even master's degree, you would likely start here with the bachelor's degree. So you have a bachelor's degree. And if you want to become a teacher and you already have a bachelor's degree, most of the programs are called alt route programs, so an alternative route program. And there are lots of those in our region and in our state. So once you determine you have that bachelor's and you want to get the teacher certification, you could either choose to do just a teacher certification program, which is typically like a 1-year program, or you could do the teacher certification plus a master's degree, which is 1 to 2 years, depending on the teacher prep program. So these are all of the different alternative route programs that we have. Most of these folks are going to be here at between 6 and 7, so you can chat with them about which one might be the best one for you. And again, whether you want to do just the teacher certification or do combined certification and master's program. So these are the ones that I would start by looking at. And then I also included on the bottom here, some of the school districts have specific programs, specific GYO programs. So I included some of those here.
And then there's one more question. If you already have credits, would you be able to help decide what degree would be easiest or closest to obtain?
Yeah, so that is, I would be able to direct you to the right people to help. Kiana's here. She's from Highline College. She's part of their BAS program. She could help. Essentially, colleges have to do like an assessment of your prior learning, prior credit, and see what would transfer and sort of be counted by a new college. So that process is a little bit more formal. So we could look at it together and give you like an estimate of, oh, you're really close to completing this degree. Here's probably going to be the fastest, easiest route to getting the degree so that you can then get the teacher certification. But I'm happy to connect you with folks to help make that assessment. Kaylee, am I still good on sharing my screen? Can you see the paraeducator resources? Okay. The last thing is I put all the resources here. PSESD, our Professional Educator Standards Board, has a link to all the alternative route to teaching programs. So if you have your bachelor's and you want to see what all the programs are, OSPI has some resources. If you're looking for, like, maybe you are teacher certified in a different state or in a different country, and how would that translate to Washington State? Again, I'm happy to walk through any of these resources because it can be kind of overwhelming to know where to start or to know just, which resources are going to be most helpful. I'm going to move us into I see many of our K-12 district partners are here. Welcome, welcome. Thank you for being here. And I'll open up our breakout rooms in just a second. So from 5:30 to 6, you have the opportunity. I'll open the breakout rooms and you'll see folks from many different districts. We have Auburn, Federal Way, Highline, Issaquah, Kent,